Okay, so this is the same presentation I'm going to give in class, but it's on video. So, you can do it on demand and at your whatever. Okay, so we're talking about if statement. So this slide tells you what an if statement is. So it sounds really, really complicated, but it is so not. So you already know what if statements are. You just don't realize that it's an if statement. It's a conditional statement. So many of you have to meet conditions in order to keep your privileges. So let's use this example. So let's say you have a cell phone and you get to keep your cell phone if you have good grades. If you don't have good grades, then you're going to lose your cell phone. So whether you realize it or not, that is an if statement. So this part is a little bit complicated. It sounds difficult, but I promise it's going to be super easy. So it checks whether a condition is met. So it's checking to see if something's true or false. And if it comes back true, it's going to return a value. If it comes back false, it returns a different value. So you're doing nothing but showing Excel how to execute instructions. And that's all it's doing. So if the condition is true, it's going to return a predefined value. And if it's false, it returns a different predefined value. And those values are values that you write in your formula. Okay, so you should use an if statement if you're trying to test for a specific condition. So, for example, I could do an if statement for, like last year when we had the growlpaws. And the tracking sheet for that had lots of if statements in it. The if statement was if a student has reached 10 paws, then they get whatever the reward was. And it was all if statement based because it would return a value if you met that criteria. So as a teacher, I could also do it looking for grades. If a student has this grade, then they're proficient. Or if a student has a different grade, then they are not as proficient, but they get what they're doing. So you use it when you want to return a value to meet specific criteria. I don't know an easy way to explain it other than just really give you examples because I'm just an example kind of person. Okay, so the syntax, it sounds really like a big word. And I guess it is a big word, but it's nothing more than the language of if statements. So you're learning how to write like some computer language. And this is also in computer science. It is a conditional statement. If this, then that. If, then statements are what they're called. So this is the way all logical if statements are written. So they all start with equals. Every formula starts with equals or function. And then it is if. Doesn't matter if it's capitalized or not. Excel will put it in the capitalization that needs to be put in. Open parentheses. Where'd my cursor go? Open parentheses right here. Your logical test. Don't worry about this underline. Okay, so it's a logical test. It's your test of if I don't know, if my grades are 25, then I am failing. So this would be if the grade is equal to 25. That is an F. That is the value if it's true. And you see the comma means otherwise. If this, and which is the true, or if not, or otherwise, it is false, which is this. All right, so your logical test is a value or expression that can be evaluated as true or false. So it has to be very clear, true or false. Like it is or it is not. There's no, like generally it's yes or no. It either is this or it's not. Okay, so the value, if true, it is the value to return, the value you want returned when the test is true. This. So if this is true, then you're going to do this. If this logical test is not true, it's going to return this value over here. So that is your value if false. The value to return if the test evaluates false. So I hope that makes sense. It's a little complicated, but it'll all clear up as soon as we start some practice. Okay, so here are some very important things you need to know about if functions. So it only results in one value out, meaning it's only going to return one value. It's only going to give you a true or a false. It cannot return both at the same time. So it's one or the other, but not both. And if the if function throws a hashtag name, question mark, or number signs, those are all errors. And it's telling you that there is a problem in your if statement. Something is written incorrectly. Okay, so here are the operators. All this one down here on the bottom. Let me switch it down. Okay, so the equal sign is obviously equals, like A equals D1. Greater than sign, you know, like the little alligator mouth. It is greater than. This would mean what's in cell A1 is greater than what's in cell D1. This one would be greater than or equal to, because you see your alligator mouth and equals. This would be cell A1 is greater than or equal to D1. Less than, that's pretty easy. So you're looking for something less than. Less than or equal to, whatever your value is in A1 is less than or equal to what's in cell D1. And then not equal to, that is going to be your less than and greater than sign. That means it is not equal to. Alright, so here are some examples. So the scores above 50 are considered pass, while scores that are below 50 are considered fail. So we can use this scenario right here. So this where it says equals if open parentheses, this is the same for every single if statement you will ever write. That does not ever change. Okay, so B2 is just a cell reference that I just randomly chose. B2 is your cell reference, less than or equal to 50. That came from right here, scores above 50, but I actually have an error. Oh, no, I don't. I was like, oh, something's wrong. Scores less than 50, because this says scores above 50 are considered passing. So whatever the score is, if it's less than or equal to 50, it is failing. The opposite would be it's passing. So something you see different about this right here, there are quotation marks around the text. You see where it says quotation mark in front of fail and behind fail, and in front of pass and behind pass. There have to be quotation marks around text. So you notice you don't put any at the if because this is the same. You're not going to put any quotation marks around this unless it contains like real words, plain text words. Okay, so the second example is the criteria is if the employee's salary is greater than or equal to $8,000, then the bonus will be 15% of the salary. Otherwise, the bonus will be 10%. Well, you're probably thinking this doesn't apply to me, but in actuality, you really need to get this stuff. Because in the real world, you're going to have to keep track of it because Your employer may try, but ultimately you're responsible for making sure you get paid correctly. All right, so we're going to start with our normal if statement. Equals if, open parentheses. And I just chose a random cell reference here. We're going to say if it's greater than 8,000, because your employee salary is greater than or equal to 8,000, okay, then your bonus will be 15% of the salary. So your salary is here in cell C2. So if C2 is greater than 8,000, then I'm going to take my salary and multiply it times 15%. I don't have to convert it to 0.015. I just have to put 15 and then the percent. Put a comma because it is the otherwise. If it's not true, then it's false. So if it is false, if my employee salary is less than 8,000, then I'm going to take my salary over here, C2, and I'm going to multiply it times 10%. I hope you get that. It's really, really easy. But if you struggle with it, please let me know, and I will come help you and explain it to you differently. All right, so that is our last slide. So I hope you understand if statements. They're not difficult. If you have any questions, give me a shout. But I do hope you got all of these notes in your interactive book, and we will square it all away.